Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. I've got this old bed frame that I'm dismantling, and I'm using all the wood because they come with an awful lot of wood inside, and I'm just going to be using the wood to make the frame for my fish tank stand. I'm building my fish tank on top of my air conditioning unit. So what I've done is I've taken some structural studs and some posts to build the frame, and then I've just taken the pieces of wood that I salvaged from the bed and placed it all on the top. So I'm going to be putting cupboards on the sides as well. Now because this can't be covered up, I've bought this grass matting which is quite nice and see-through, so the air will pass through there, which I'm going to be using this gold spray paint, and I'm just going to spray the whole thing. I've got another bed base, and I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing by cutting all of this off to see what I've got inside that I might be able to use. Opening this one up, it's just got a lot of really nice wood inside there. The top of this bed has got waterproofing on the inside, and it's got the foam which is molded to the bed. So I'm going to be trying to get this whole piece off at the top and at the bottom to use this whole piece to support my fish tank. And now I'm going to be removing these small pieces off. I've got all my pieces of wood off the bed, and as you can see they're quite rough, so I'm just going to give them a quick sand, so not too much, just to get rid of some of the splinters. And the thinner pieces that I got off one of the other beds, I've spaced them to cover my air conditioning unit like that. I've also just given them a little bit of a sand. I'm also going to be painting all these pieces that are going to be going in between my design. I'm going to paint those all black as well. The grass matting that I spray painted gold, I've now attached to the front of my unit. I've got this old cupboard which I'm going to be dismantling so I can use the wood to make a new cupboard for my storage unit next to the air conditioner. I know this is not how you're supposed to make a cupboard, but I'm working with all leftover wood and a small little space like this, and because it's outdoors I'm just using some pine and building a wee frame underneath it because I'm using leftover chipboard. So I've just cut the base and put the side up and the back, and now I'm going to just nail it and screw it all together. I'm going to be connecting my little frame by using dowels. So I've got these little ones, and to make sure that they line up in the right place, all I'm doing is I'm taking my piece of wood and placing some little screws flat on top of it like that, and then placing the other piece directly on top, and then smacking that down with a hammer so that it makes a little indentation, so it shows me exactly where to drill. The dowels that I'm using are 8mm, so I'm using a size 8 drill bit to just drill my holes. Got my cupboard all put together, and now I'm just going to paint the whole thing black. I've got my 8 pieces of wood that I'm going to be using to decorate my unit, and now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this paint, and this particular one is called Black Ace, and it's by Tolmans, and I'm just going to be painting along the sides and the front panels of each piece. I've got all my pieces painted. Now I haven't painted the end pieces because these pieces have all got to be cut to size, but it's easier to paint them all in one and then cut afterwards. So I'll wait for those to dry before I move on to the next step. The wood is all dry now, and now I'm taking what they call pillar box red and a small little sponge like that, and all I'm going to be doing is dipping the sponge into the red paint and taking most of it off by just dabbing it onto something else so it's not too solid. And then we start by just sponging the red onto the black like that, and just do all of them the same. I've got all the pieces painted and now just wait for those to dry. I'm cutting my decorative pieces, and I'm cutting them at, so the first one will be 12, the next one 22, the next one 32, and the center one is going to be the complete that goes from the top to the bottom. And then I'll do the same pattern on the other side, which will be going 32, 22 and 12, and I'm doing the exact same thing for the bottom. I've got all my pieces cut to size, and now I'm just going to be taking a file and cleaning up the edges and then painting the top and bottom black. So I've got 4 pieces of each of the sizes. And now I'm going to be lining up my black pieces, and I'm separating them at 12 centimeters apart so that the patterned ones will be going in the center of that. I'm using a nail gun to attach the pieces to the wood. All my pieces are dry now, and now I'm going to start attaching them, and I'm starting with the smallest one and then ascending, and for the middle one I've got a full one that goes from the top all the way to the bottom, and I'm just going to use the nail gun to put these all on. I've got all my pieces in place, so it's giving me quite a nice little pattern. Pretty happy with that. When you're putting your cupboard in to line it up, make sure you've got a small little piece of wood underneath that you want the height of your door to be, and balance the door on top of that so that when you open your cupboard to tighten the hinges, these side ones here, you've got your cupboard door open and you've got your piece of wood underneath the door holding it up to the height that you need it. So then it makes it much easier to just tighten those screws, because as you can see just over here there's a 2 millimeter or so gap that the door could fold down so that the door can be lowered or made higher. So you want to keep your door in exactly the same position once it's open as when it's going to be closed. So put that little piece of wood, it makes it so much easier when you're installing these hinges. I've just removed my piece of wood, and as you can see the door is now sitting just above the floor, so it's not going to scrape the floor. So there's my door completed. As it's standing at the moment, I'm very happy with the gaps. So I've got, I don't know if you can see, there's just a small gap on the side here, and the door opens rather nicely. So very happy with that. And now I'll just put a door handle on there. I've got a spare piece of blue board or cement sheet from a previous project, which I'm just going to be painting with the black ace. I've got my board all marked up, and because I'm cutting corner pieces, I'm actually going to be using the angle grinder instead of doing the score and snap. But you choose whichever is easiest for you. If you're using cement board, please make sure that you're wearing the appropriate safety gear, especially a mask, because this has got silica in it and you need to cut this outside. My piece of cement board is now dry, and now what I'm doing is I'm taking some of this rich gold acrylic paint, and I'm just going to be painting small veins on it like that. I'm using a paintbrush that has got a very long thin tip on it like that. It's called a striping brush, and I've got some of the gold paint, and all I'm doing is taking it and just placing it, and I'm putting the lines at 45-degree angles and just wiggling my brush so that I don't get any nice straight lines. So just put however many you want on. I put all my gold stripes in, so I've actually gone for quite a few of them because most of them are going to be covered with the red paint, which we'll be doing once this is dry. I'm using a paint that is called Postbox Red, and I've got a small little sponge, and all I'm doing is dipping the sponge into the paint, and then take most of the paint off and just dabbing it onto a lid of another container, and then we're going to take the sponge and dab it all over. We're just going to be just dabbing it like that all over. You can put as much or as little as you want, so that's what it looks like. I've done my whole piece, and now just wait for that to dry. I'm going to be using this Brilliant Sealer finish, and this one's normally for hard floor, but I find it works really well. I've decanted some of my Brilliance floor polish, which is a liquid floor polish, into a small container, and I'm just going to use a Chocs White, and then I'm going to apply 5 coats to my cement board, just to give it a really nice shine. I put the first coat on, and as you can see, it makes it really nice and shiny. I'm using the base of an old bed frame for the top of my unit, and I've left the waterproofing and the foam on top because that's where I'm going to be placing my fish tank, on top of my air conditioning unit that I've converted into a fish stand now. I managed to get some help to get my fish tank up. So my fish tank, I've put a backdrop on it as well, and I'll be working with the decorations. Now that it's up, I can start removing the cardboard and the foam. I put the cardboard on top of the foam so that when we put the tank on, it didn't rip the foam. So I'm just going to be taking my box cutter and cutting all the cardboard and foam from around the tank. I've cut all the cardboard off, and now I'm going to be cutting the waterproofing that's underneath and the foam as well. I've got everything off now, and now I'm going to be taking my big piece of cement sheet that I painted, and I'm going to be putting it on the sides and along the front. I've got my piece cut to size, pretty happy with how it's fitting, and the front is also sitting quite nicely. To finish off my cabinet, I've got this really thin, it's a 0.5 centimeter wide piece of wood. I've glued my little piece on, and I've just secured it using some masking tape along the whole length of it. I've got a pine strip which is 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, and I'm just painting it black. So I've got one of them painted because I've cut them to go in the front and on the side. So I'll just finish off that one. I'm taking a small piece of black wood that I painted, which is the 2 by 2, and I'm just nailing that to the pieces underneath, just so that the front looks better than noticing all those strips of wood. So I'm just going to be using my nail gun to do that. I've got a small wooden onlay which I'm going to be painting black as well. The paint is dry on my little onlay, and now I'm going to be using this Super Gold paint and just giving it a quick spray. And the gold onlay that I just painted, I'm going to be placing on the center post right in the middle like that, and attaching it to the 2 pieces on the side as well. I'm not particularly happy with what it looks like, so what I've gone and bought is some of this trim, which is supposed to be for cars, And I'm going to take it and I'm going to be placing it around like that all the way. To cut it so that it goes around, and then we can collapse the top piece over. What you need to do is mark the exact point where it's going to be turning. So I'm just going to mark that. I don't know if you can see that, but I've marked it just there. And now what you need to do is, from that point, whatever the width is of your tape here, measure out the same distance on either side of your center mark. Sorry, I know this is very, very difficult to see. So I've measured, because my tape is 1 centimeter wide, and now all you have to do is take from the center point and draw a line up to the end where you've measured the 1 centimeter, and then we're going to be cutting these small little sections out. So I've cut this small little piece out, so now when we put it and bend it over, it'll make the corner like that. So now that it's all cut, we can put it on, and on the back of these ones they've got 2 strips of tape which you need to just remove to stick it down. I'm going to be starting on my corner, so I'm just removing those pieces of tape, so lining it up, making sure it goes around the corner, and then so I've got the corner piece done, and now I can put the rest on. Doesn't seem very, very sticky, so I might have to glue this down as well. So far so good, it's holding it all down nicely, so I'll just continue and do the entire piece. I'm extremely happy how my glue board turned out, or cement sheet. It really looks fabulous, and it's really, really nice and shiny as well. A bit of a close look. This was made specifically to cover the outdoor unit for the air conditioning unit, which I decided to turn into a stand to hold my fish tank, which is quite a large fish tank as well, which I'll be working on later. If you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.